Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Replacements, Chapter 3. Thank you to the Patreon supporters for supporting on Patreon, and thank you to those of you who support here on YouTube as a channel member. And thank you to you who supports for free by liking, subscribing, and following along with the story. Now, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Sergeant Riggs sat in the recreation room of their new base, feeding the most unlikely of creatures, a squirrel, of all things, in the middle of the desert. Its ebon fur bore silvered streaks along its face, its eyes, however, sharp, with intelligence. It took small chunks of rice and peaches from Riggs's cold stew, nibbling as it watched him with a keen gaze. "You're a cute little bugger, ain't you?" Riggs muttered, smirking. "Maybe we'll make you a right proper Marine. Get you a gun? Like those old holodive games, Bonkers Bad Hair Day. Aye, now that was a classic." Outside the room, the low hum of the base was interrupted by the sharp crack of rifle fire, followed by a shrill, dying screech. The squirrel's ears flicked up, then, with a panicked chitter, darted up into Riggs's helmet hanging on the wall. "Damn idiots," Riggs sighed, pushing himself up and stepping toward the door. From the corridor, Cheapwine Jaren came striding past, an ostrich slung over its shoulder, its head dripping crimson. "CK, you can land a headshot. Clean enough to doing a bird like this." "Jaren!" "Sergeant!" Cheapwine snapped to attention, nearly dropping the carcass. Riggs folded his arms as he leaned in the doorframe. "Hurry up your butchering. We've got work to do, and next time, no firing rifles inside the base." Sorry, sir, that was me. What's the mission?" Caden asked. Riggs eyed him, admiring the honesty, but he would have to pay for it later. "Clearing out the ancient structure to the south. The geeks want us to take a look inside." The heat was relentless. Caden could feel it through his aging armor, almost baking him alive. He glanced at Cheapwine and T-Nat. Neither fared much better. Meanwhile, Riggs, Grinner, and Life moved with ease. Heat regulators in their armor, keeping them cool. Training for them had been a formality. For the replacements, every step was another reminder of just how underprepared they were. It took them 20 minutes to reach the towering ruin. Sand crept into places Caden didn't even know existed, chafing at his skin beneath his armor. Grinner let out a low whistle from atop a dune. "Boys, sir, I ain't seen anything this massive since Corsi. I reckon the Sultanate wasn't the first power here. So, ancients being former colonists ain't a lie?" T-Nat asked. "No," Riggs answered, scanning the structure. "A lot of worlds were settled in earlier waves, then abandoned when their powers fried themselves out. Some survivors sealed themselves in crypto-sleep. Regardless of how we open this place up, you expect everything inside to be hostile." He studied the weathered limestone, his eyes narrowing. "There. Some of the brick is already crumbling." He motioned toward the weakened spot. "When we move in, concentrated fire. Clear?" The squad gave silent nods before descending the dune. As they drew closer, the ruin's looming shadow swallowed them, offering them brief relief from the oppressive sun. Riggs signaled for the squad to spread out and form a half-moon formation. He watched as everyone readied themselves, weapons drawing beads on the crumbling structure. He could feel a cold breeze coming from over atop the ruin. He waited for it to pass, giving the replacements a moment of respite. Fire! Shots rang out, bullets chipping away at the brittle limestone, dust and debris filling the air. Within seconds, the impact crater deepened. Then, something tore through the other side. A pair of massive pincers snapped outward and folded the weakened wall like a child knocking over blocks. It leapt out from the dust and debris as it skittered into the sand, screeching a horrendous sound as if it was trying to wake the sand itself. Its 8 armored and thorned legs skittered around, finding purchase as it adjusted to the light of the noonday sun. Quickly, too quickly, dark green chitin, black, unblinking eyes, mandibles dripping with acidic saliva. Bugs, the ancient enemy of all marines, dating back to old Earth itself. Every marine knew the stories from Basic. Seen in the holovids, these replacements could, very well, meet their ends. And to make matters worse, this was a mega spider. It let out another high-pitched screech and lunged for them. "Shrat! Big-ass Shrat!" Cheap Wine bellowed. The replacements knew how to deal with Shrats. Squirrel-like creatures with spider legs and mandibles to boot. "Right, aim for the legs," Caden shouted. The 3 replacements opened fire, focusing on its right side. The mega spider, despite its swiftness, still took a few hits to its legs, staggering it slightly. But it didn't stop. Riggs had seen these things before. Their armored faceplates could take a beating, but they couldn't last forever. Over the private comms, he gave a simple but cold order. "Marines, aim for the head. Let the replacements keep it distracted." Grinner chuckled darkly. Understood. Without argument, the 3 Marines adjusted their aim. Grinner leveled his heavy machine gun and opened fire. The sheer force of his assault caught the faceplate head-on, staggering the beast further, and giving the replacements a chance to actually damage its legs. Riggs squeezed his trigger in short bursts, striking the same weakened spot. Life, meanwhile, kept his pistol steady, waiting for the final opening. But something else caught his attention. "Sir, second contact! Mega Scarab!" It was smaller than the Mega Spider, but twice as fast. A nightmare of speed and claws. It skittered through the sand, bounding toward them with a terrifying agility. Life snapped his pistol up and fired, but it was quick. Too quick. Too close. The scarab leapt, mandibles splitting into jagged maws lined with razor-sharp teeth. He'd seen images of Marines and civilians after scarabs got their maws on them. The thoughts caused him to hesitate slightly and lose his aim. "Fuck!" Life emptied his magazine in a panic. Bullets slammed into the creature mid-air, its momentum sending it tumbling backwards into the sand, twitching as it bled out. Breathing heavily, he lowered his smoking pistol. "Not bad, Lifey. I thought you might need a hand." Grinner snorted. "Grinner, I have a gift for you," Life said, through a few heavy breaths. He raised Grinner the finger, and the squad chuckled in return. A few feet away from them all, the mega spider lay, bullet-riddled and motionless. Cheap Wine stepped closer, eyeing the corpse. "Shrat meat's actually pretty good. We can cook it, and maybe make a few trophies." Rings let out a low hum. "I don't know what a shrat is. This is a mega spider. Some Rimworld experiment to counter mechanoids. Looks like Grinner was right. Sultanite isn't the first civilization that tried timing this place. There's bound to be nests all over this planet with them growing unchecked." Tinat nudged the carcass with his boot. "So, can we still eat it?" Caden grinned. "He's got a point, sir. We eat shrats back home. This thing's not much different. Bigger. Even this thing. What is it? A scarab, you said? Yeah, fry it up right. A little sauce from its liver and eyes. It could turn out creamy. And that ostrich won't last long, sir. Pretty gamey. Not a lot of meat." Cheap Wine nodded. Grinner recoiled. You Hollis Prime boys are bug eaters? Fuck, shit writes itself. He crossed his arms, smirking. Tell you what, if it actually tastes good, I'll cover all of your duties for a week. Lifey'll join me as well. Don't fucking turn me into this. Too bad you're in. Caden and the replacements exchanged glances, then broke into mischievous grins. Deal, Caden said, shaking Grinner's hand. We look forward to a very relaxing week. Caden set the last plate down, his thoughts drifting to the harvest festival back home. It wasn't so different from today. People gathering to share food, stories, and company. The festivals had always been a highlight of the year, a time when the hard work of the season gave way to celebration. Fields would be cleared, barns filled to the brim, and families would set out long tables under the stars. Brawls would break out, love would be confessed, and some hearts broken. But at its core, it was about community. Everyone shared in the bounty. No one went hungry, and for one night, the weight of daily life faded away. Who would have thought that a meal of a mega spider, corn, and rice on a distant world could remind him of home? To the three replacements, the taste of Shrat and mega spider was surprisingly familiar. Caden had expected something alien, something foul, but in truth, it tasted very much like the furry little Shrats back home. Bug meat would always seem repulsive to Glitterworlders when they visited, but when they're plentiful and vary in size, you make the most of it. If Hollis Prime had taught them anything, it was that survival meant taking what the land provided. He smirked to himself, shaking his head. You look rather happy for a man about to eat something with 8 legs. The voice was pleasant, almost melodic. Caden looked up, his smirk vanishing as he swallowed hard. One of the researchers stood before him, her bright orange eyes partially obscured by the reflection in her round glasses. She smiled, a small, knowing expression, as if she'd already pieced together his thoughts before he could say a word. And for a moment, he forgot how to breathe. I was thinking about home. He finally managed, his voice coming out rougher than he intended. It's Harvest Festival time back on Hollis Prime, and it kind of feels like that. She tilted her head slightly. Really? Do you normally celebrate with bugs as part of your feast? Caden let out a nervous chuckle, trying to find a place to put the plates in his hands, and his hands in general. There was something about the way she looked at him that reminded him of his first crush, and that realization wasn't helping. No, normally we've got bread, fresh produce, homemade dishes, and beer. Lots of beer. He sighed happily. The thought of a cool, refreshing drink made him suddenly realize how dry his throat was. The researcher nodded, still smiling. So, Corporal Grinner wasn't lying. You do eat bugs. The way she said it made something twist in Caden's stomach. She disapproves. Clearing his throat, he straightened up slightly, trying to keep his voice steady. Yeah, we do. Hollis Prime's full of them. Some docile, others rage-fueled nightmares. Sure, we keep livestock, but bugs are easy to farm, and quite often you eat what comes easy. Her expression remained unreadable, but her gaze lingered on him for a beat too long. Then, as if deciding she's heard enough, she looked down at her datapad. So how's it going to taste? The question caught him off guard. Bugs, especially Shrat, always had a slight sweetness, with a firm, chewy texture. And they absorb seasoning well, too. You could make them taste almost like anything. Should be good, he said, scratching his chin. We did our best with what spices were left behind. Sauce turned out well, at least. Good. She nodded absent-mindedly, her focus already shifting to the data scrolling across her screen. Her sudden disinterest stung more than he expected. leaving him standing there feeling like a fool. Before he could figure out how to salvage the conversation, the blaring sound of the base alarms cut through the air. They drew his attention. A break. A way out, he thought. For once, he appreciated the reprieve of violence. Caden instinctively reached for his rifle but hesitated. He realized he still had the plates in his hands. Quickly, he set them down and turned toward the door with his rifle in hand, only to find the researcher still standing in his way, eyes flicking rapidly over the text flooding her datapad. "Miss, I need you to move. I have to go." She barely looked up, shifting only slightly. "Yeah, you've got room. Just go past." Caden clenched his jaw. She was barely paying attention, completely absorbed in whatever she was reading. From down the hall, a voice cut through the noise. "Ginger! Let's go! We're under attack!" Grinner. Despite the man's penchant for jokes, he wasn't a liar, and if Caden wasted time here and pissed off Sergeant Riggs, he'd be regretting it. "Miss, I'm sorry." Before she could react, he grabbed her gently by the waist, lifting her as if she weighed nothing, and set her down just inside the room. For the first time, her focus broke from her datapad. She blinked at him, looking slightly flustered, her mouth opening like she was going to say something, but Caden didn't stick around to find out what. He shot her an apologetic smile and bolted down the hall to join the others. Thank you, my friends. That's the end of Chapter 3. Chapter 4 will be next Sunday. Possibly more. I look forward to seeing you all there. Come join me again Monday and Wednesday for the actual Rimworld episodes. Maybe we'll throw in a Friday episode too. See you then, my friends. Cheers. To the three replacements, the taste of Shrat and Mega Spider was surprisingly before he could figure out how to salvage the